Why do I feel like this won't be the last time I'll be using this title? Delicious in Dungeon storytelling is a truly complex dish. Just when you think you're getting a hint of one flavor, another completely different one hits you out of nowhere, oftentimes leaving a surprising aftertaste that you never would have expected. Just when you think you're safe to expect one thing, Ryoko Kui flips those expectations on their head, and that in a nutshell is the brilliance of this series. In episode 23, Delicious in Dungeon dropped an absolute bombshell that changes everything we know about the story so far. And if you're an anime only like me, or maybe you just weren't paying close attention, you might have actually completely missed out on what it was. So let's take a look at why you might have missed Delicious in Dungeon's biggest plot twist. Or biggest plot twist so far. In Senchi's backstory, we see the dwarven mining crew first discover the entrance of the dungeon deep below the island's surface. Expecting to find untold riches in the depths of the dungeon, the dwarves seem oddly possessed. As they're drawn into the allure of gold and everything they could possibly imagine, their eyes light up with a terrifying luster as they march forward, unable to stop, unable to control themselves. Senchi recalls this chilling effect of the dungeon. He says that his usually ambitious party started acting too ambitious, like they were being drawn in by something. And then later in the episode reiterates that the dungeon itself changes to your desires. The dwarves saw the dungeon as real solid gold, but that's because they've heard the dwarven folktales that told of the exact same thing. They saw a dungeon made of gold because their deepest desire was finding the rarest, most valuable ores, and the dungeon lured them in with that exact thing. Interestingly, we see the exact same halls that Senchi and the dwarven miners discovered all those years ago. The same columns of solid gold are now flaked away, revealing the stone underneath and the thin veneer that it always was, a facade built on luring the gold-hungry dwarves into its trap. All the way back in episode 1, one of the first monsters that we actually encounter in this series are the man-eating plants of the beginner floors. We learn how these carnivorous plants often lure in their prey with sweet scents, only to ensnare victims that wander too closely into their trap. And now, all these episodes later, we see that the dungeon almost works similarly itself, drawing in explorers and adventurers with their greatest wishes, only to catch them in its trap. In this case, using the souls of monsters and humans alike as its fertilizer. This reveal that the dungeon responds to the desires of anyone who steps foot inside it recontextualizes so much about this plot that up until now seems to have gone unexplained or seemed a little too convenient to be true. Every time the group has needed a random safe room to cook or recoup, there's been one. Every time someone has needed a washroom, there it is. Every time Marcille has needed a bathhouse to specifically gaze at her resurrected girlfriend, hey, look, there's a bathhouse. But how deep does all of this go? What are the desires that the dungeon is really reacting to? There are a few I'd like to explore because I think this is the biggest hint to the other biggest mystery of the series so far, the Golden Country. So let's say that the dungeon really does grant your deepest desires, and let's take that knowledge back to the timeline as far as we can, to King Delgal. In the Living Painting episode in the replay of Delgal's coronation, Lio sees Delgal pray for the eternal prosperity of the country and its people. And this might be the first actual instance of the dungeon responding to a desire in general, because what were the direct results of this wish? The Golden Country, a utopia where quite literally the entire country and its people are trapped in the eternal prosperity that Delgal wished for. And then after Delgal left the Golden Country at the request of the Golden Lion, who will get its own video, don't even worry about it, the dungeon responded to another desire, thistles. The so-called Mad Mage was so hell-bent on getting Delgal back, so overcome with desire, that the entire dungeon has since been shaping itself to Thistle's warped and manic desire, causing monsters like the Red Dragon to be strangely active, as if the monsters themselves are searching for Delgal as well. Thistle still doesn't know that Delgal made it to the surface and died, which is why he's still so convinced that he can find him. But what happens when he finds out? Will the dungeon once again contort to Thistle's new desire to bring Delgal back to life? Or will it simply move on like some kind of parasite to the next strongest desire? Which, at this point in the story, could come from Laos's party itself? Now, we really don't know whether or not the Golden Country was created from Delgal or Thistle's desires, but I do think that maybe we're getting closer to one of the biggest mysteries of Season 1. Maybe the black magic that Thistle discovered was really just part of the dungeon innately all along. Maybe the spell cast over the Golden Country has always been Thistle's desire to help Delgal accomplish his dreams, and over time Delgal realized that it was no longer what he truly wanted at all. The other really fun bit of storytelling this reveal sets up is how it will use our other main character's desires going forward, and maybe subtly how it's been incorporating them into the story the entire time. How many monsters have we seen only because Laos's deepest desire is because it would be cool to encounter them? Are Fallon's strange bursts of magic the dungeon itself, reacting to her will to save her friends? There are plenty of ways that this could come into play later on in the series, maybe as illusions that the party will have to overcome, where they'll have to choose between what they want most in the world or what they actually have in reality. Maybe the deepest desire is the friends we made along the way type beat. Maybe the most interesting and potentially disturbing dynamic that I expect this reveal to have is with our main girl, my favorite character, Marcille. Marcille maybe has the most intense and pronounced desires of the entire party. She never wants to lose anyone ever again. She never wants to be left alone, as we saw in episode 19's nightmare sequence. And we also know that from her time in the Magic Academy, her goal has always been to learn everything she can about creating her own quote-unquote safe dungeon. So in other words, Marcille's deepest goals, her deepest desires, are A, a way to keep her loved ones from dying, and B, create her own version of a dungeon, a safe version, maybe a version of a dungeon where monsters and humans work alongside each other in some kind of golden country? The parallels between Marcille and Thistle at this point, the intentions of both becoming something warped and twisted, is the entire endgame of Dungeon Meshi that Marcille is destined to become yet another mad mage? It's going to be a long wait for Season 2, but I'm still going to make 100% spoiler-free Delicious in Dungeon content for as long as I have things to yap about, which, given how many cliffhangers we ended off on, means that I'll still be making Dungeon Meshi videos for a while. I'm also reading the manga here on YouTube and Twitch live every Thursday evening, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification for when I go live. VODs of all of my manga streams are available for YouTube channel members and on Patreon, where you can get every single stream that I've ever done here on the channel for just $1. It really helps out the channel, helps out support me, and gives you more Delicious in Dungeon content. As far as I can tell, that is a win-win. And to everyone who does already support me, thank you guys so much. The names of my patrons and YouTube channel members will be on the screen. Thank you guys for your support. It really helps me keep doing all this YouTube stuff. As always, please be respectful in the comments to people watching this series for the first time. If you want to talk spoilers, please tag them and then post your comment below a spoiler tag. This makes it a safe spot for anime onlys to hang out and lets manga readers talk with other manga readers. Thank you guys for being respectful of people's first experience with this series. Anime onlys, what are your theories? How do you think this is going to come into play later on in the series? If at all, maybe it actually doesn't mean anything. And manga readers, what were your thoughts at this point in the series? Were you also beginning to see some disturbing similarities between Marcille and the Mad Mage at this point in the story? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're still watching, who would you like to see me do a video on specifically in the series so far? You could drop any character and we'll analyze their arc, we'll analyze their character progression from episode 1 till now, and we'll maybe make some predictions on what I think is going to be the culmination of their storyline in Season 2. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube junk, and I'll see you next time. Peace.